The hockey season is upon us. The perfect thing to solve my personal blues as a Red Sox fan who is grieving was the Boston Bruins starting the season with 2 straight wins to begin the season. For thoughts on the NHL and more, we welcome in from ESPN, Arda Ocal. Arda, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to be able to catch up with you again. Happy hockey season to you as well. Given that we're in Boston, I'd love to start here with the Boston Bruins. 2 wins against the Capitals and the Chicago Blackhawks to start off the season. Your impressions on what you've seen from them through 2 promising games?
3 words: plan the parade. Just start it now.
Perfect.
Get it started. Okay. They look good. I still think they need probably center, like Casey Middlestat, Fraser Minton. Like, they could grow to be good centers, right? But I think they're going to need. This is what I think. If the Bruins continue winning, and especially if they're a wild card contending team, or if they do better, they'll pick up some pieces at the trade deadline. And I think that they're going to start with center. If Swayman has a really good season, which he could absolutely have, that's going to help a lot as well. But we need to surround Pasternak with more playmakers and scorers to help bolster. Like Elias Lindholm and Morgan Geekie, like that could be a good line, but it's going to be anchored by Pasternak. So if we get into a situation where he's underperforming just because he needs more talent around him, then that I can see the Bruins making moves, especially if they're competitive this year.
What to you feels like the high water mark for Jeremy Swayman, a guy who's paid to be one of the best goaltenders in the league, but certainly his first year without Linus Ullmark wasn't the best. What does the best season for Jeremy Swayman look like in your eyes?
I think he has elite qualities to him. I think that it was just an adjustment period, really, to going to be the consensus number 1 to being one of the best goaltending tandems in NHL history, really, right?
Right.
Like in terms of their performance and the vibes. Like, I think that's just an adjustment period, really. So I'm still bullish on Jeremy Swayman. I'm certainly not ready to write him off, and look for options to get rid of him. I think that we give him time to develop and to gain confidence as a number 1 goaltender. So yeah, we're still early in that stage. I wouldn't be, sounding the alarms anywhere near that quite yet.
That's absolutely fair, and positivity that I think a lot of Bruins fans will enjoy. As we talk about some of the difference makers for this Bruins team, Arda, a season for Charlie McAvoy that he'd probably like to forget last year, but it was all centered around performance in the Four Nations face-off that I think got a lot of fans excited up until the injury that came forth. So what does a good season look like for him? What does a bounce-back season look like for a guy like Charlie McAvoy?
So I think we talk a lot about contract year, right?
Yep.
Like we talk a lot. I mean, that's not going to happen with Kaprizov and McDavid, et cetera. Maybe a guy like Artemi Panarin. But I definitely feel like Charlie McAvoy might benefit the most from the Olympic buff, like an Olympic year.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about this with TJ Oshie in studio on last Tuesday. Like that's a thing. Like for all the talk about a contract year and how players outperform or play out of their minds on a contract year, same thing on an Olympic year, especially if they're a bubble player that may or may not be selected, like Connor Bedard. I look at him to have a really good start to the season for that reason. But Charlie McAvoy has a different motivation, right? He wants to win a gold medal. He had to sit out, and you saw that passion when he was talking to the Team USA before the final, right? Like that clip of him, like he's in tears, like that was a sad moment for him,
right?
And probably a motivator for him to want to play out of his mind, to leave no doubt, and to have an awesome Olympics. Like I can only imagine that's extremely important to him.
The coaching position for the Bruins has become a bit of a turnstile in recent years. It's been good coaches who have come through, and Bruce Cassidy and Jim Montgomery. Does Marco Sturm, to you, have the feel of a guy who can solve some of those coaching issues for the Bruins and maybe be a guy who could be here longer term?
Yeah, by all intents and purposes, I've heard great things. He's a first-time NHL coach, or head coach. So obviously that's going to be, that remains to be seen. But we've also had a lot of success with first-time coaches in the NHL. Spencer Carberry is doing great in Washington. We have other examples of players that have been, doing well in their first tenure as a head coach in the NHL. So it remains to be seen with Marco Sturm, but that was the direction that the Bruins wanted to go, was to hire a young coach as opposed to, there were other coaches like Joe Quenneville, et cetera, were available before this, right, at some point.
Right.
So they decided to go the direction of getting a young first-time coach, history with the city. So Remains to be seen, but optimistic.
Arda Ocal of ESPN with us here on WEEI. As we pivot away from the Bruins for a moment, I was going through the preseason picks from the ESPN NHL staff a couple of weeks ago. Arda, did I read it correctly that you have the Toronto Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup this season?
That was actually my colleague Luke Lagrano. That was his pick. No, actually, his would be the Rangers.
Okay.
For those listening, that's a mutual friend of ours that works at ESPN.
Absolutely.
He's a great guy.
Right.
I do that every year, Dan. I do that every year, and I do it intentionally. I was the guy that drew the parade route when the Leafs were winning in the second round last season.
Yep.
On right beside PK Subban on set. That is my running joke. I will continue to do that until something happens with the Leafs. But listen, as Bruins fans listening to this right now, they have no problem with this simply because they have literally had the Leafs number for the last, 30 years. So it would almost be like, let them have one. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. Let the little brother win around.
Sure. Why not? Right. Yeah. Little brother. Exactly.
Could it be for them, Arda, this season a less is more type thing? Mitch Marner, the long-standing saga ends up ending with him being moved to the Vegas Golden Knights, and you get Nick Waugh back in that trade. Could it be a situation where you're less top heavy with those top talent, but the depth of the Leafs could prove to be better in the long run?
Yes. I do believe so. I think that, Matthew Nyes is going to grow into an elite player. He might, occupy the fourth spot in the 4-4. We can see guys like Nick Robertson and others step up in Mitch Marner's absence. Mitch Marner's an elite player. No one's taking him away from that. I will say this. Bruins fans, just hold the Bruins trolling on social for just a second here. Can you imagine, just for the hockey storyline, can you imagine if the final was Vegas and Toronto?
Oh, the ultimate theater. That is just to see the reactions of Toronto fans, to just have their team in the cup regardless would be priceless. And then taking on the former chosen one and Mitch Marner would be that's a Stanley Cup before you even drop the puck that already goes in the pantheon of some of the best that we've seen.
And then all of Toronto would be like, we finally made it, but it was Mitch that was anchoring us down. Like bringing us down.
Right.
That's guaranteed going to be a storyline. Oh, look what happens when we get rid of Mitchie. Oh, well, look, now we're making the Stanley Cup final. Can you imagine the boost, dude? Can you imagine the boost? Imagine that first game or third game, Vegas is in Toronto's barn. They announce Mitch Marner. Oh, my gosh. That would be theater, to your point. Exact theater.
It would rattle the rafters. I don't think it's the Air Canada Center anymore. Whatever the name of that building is, he wouldn't even, let alone when he touches the puck, when he breathes near the puck, there would be boos that would be raining down. But that would be tremendous to watch. That calls to mind a question I hadn't written down originally. But as we talk about players that left their longtime city and found potential success, what's your perspective on the Brad Marchand trade for the Bruins last year and how Brad will be remembered when all is said and done after a long career with the Bruins as the captain, but going to Florida and finding so much success? What does the legacy for that player look like?
He's a statue guy in Boston. There's no doubt. And he will retire as a Boston Bruin, in my opinion. He could spend the next 5 years in Florida. He's retiring as a Boston Bruin. In my opinion, he even says it in interviews. He loves that organization. He was a Bruin first. He thanks the organization for giving him his break in the NHL. He has lifelong memories there. He still lives there, or he still has roots there. So I just don't, look, for anyone listening that has any doubts that just because he plays for another team that he doesn't have the Boston Bruins in his heart, you can eliminate that right now. Like he will have a statue in the city of Boston one day, sooner than later, because look, I'm sure he's enjoying himself. He just won a Stanley Cup with the Panthers, and they're trying to run it back, for a third time. Look, that doesn't erase years and years of blood, sweat, and tears for the spokesman.
Right?
It just doesn't. And Brad, and look, even if he wins another cup, 2 more cups with Florida, honestly, Brian Trottier won a cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Do we call him Pittsburgh Penguins great Brian Trottier?
No.
Not really, right? I just honestly feel like Brad Marchand, when it's all said and done, and he'll want that too. He may sign the 1 day deal, to You know what I would love? Actually, here, Dan, let me present something.
Please.
Marc-Andre Fleury had that final preseason game, big hoopla,
Yep.
like very appropriate send-off for him. That's what I want for Brad Marchand. When it's all said and done, he's done his career. I want him to play one more preseason game with the Boston Bruins.
Ooh, I like that. I like that as the way for things to end, and I also like that as hopefully a growing trend in the NHL, because that was just to see a sold-out barn during a preseason game was awesome, but to see that final shift with Crosby and Malkin and Letang all out there to give him a hug after what was a similarly contentious divorce between the two sides, to see it all kind of come together for the sake of the fan base was awesome.
Right, and there wasn't a contentious divorce with Marchand and Boston, right? Like, it was just he left, and like it's not going to be contentious. Like, his numbers going in the rafters, he's getting a statue. Like, it's not going to be contentious in any way, shape, or form. That's going to happen as soon as he retires. But I would love to see the preseason. I agree with you 100%, Dan. I want that to be a trend for legendary players to end their careers, even if they spent their entire career. Like, let's say it was like Ovechkin. Okay, let's say Ovechkin retires after this season. I would want him to have the final preseason game with the Capitals as a goodbye.
Absolutely, I'm completely with you, and I do hope we see more of that as some of the greatest talents that we've seen in the game start to kind of age out. But Arda, quickly before we let you go, the NHL season is upon us. Where can we find you, and what should we know about the NHL on ESPN's networks this season?
Yeah, proud to be back. The NHL on ESPN year 5. The Stanley Cup is on ESPN family of networks this year.
Nice.
We're very proud of that. You can just find me on the desk doing studio updates, hosting games, contributing to the point, and the Drop, which is our digital show as well on the NHL and ESPN YouTube. Lots to look forward to. And it's a lot of fun, man. Hockey season, here we go.
Absolutely. Pumped up for it as well. And make sure you follow him across socials at Arda, ARDA, for updates on all of that. Great to catch up with you, my friend. Enjoy the hockey season coming up, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Anytime.